four.
We are Movie Menu Reviews, your first bad times of podcasting. On today's menu, we'll be reviewing Bad Times at El Royale and First Man. Welcome, ladies and gents. I'm Dan the Man Munoz, host of Movie Menu Reviews, your weekly movie news and reviews podcast, live on Facebook. Woo!
Yeah!
I am joined by special guest Alexander Dunn.
Hey!
Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me again.
Also here today is our senior panelist and co-host Z.
I forgot my dress. I'm sorry, guys. I was meaning to bring my quinceañera dress.
You fail.
I failed.
Yeah, we got you a birthday cake.
Did you?
It's like 3 layered.
Where is it? I want to eat it.
We ate it.
Oh, pretty sure.
It was
really
delicious.
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 It was 3 layers, tres leches.
It was tres leches cake. That's what they
Well,
call
that's
it.
awesome.
And
Thank you.
the
for that.
guy who always steals everyone's cake is my co-host Mike.
Yay!
So before we get started, one thing that we didn't do last week was talk about some movies that we saw over our break. So I saw quite a few movies. I saw Searching, which I thought was a good movie. Did anyone else see Searching?
No, not yet.
Did not.
I saw The Nun. Did anyone else see The Nun?
Yeah, I did see The Nun, and I wish I said
I also saw Operation Finale.
How was that?
Actually, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, but a lot of people didn't like it.
Okay.
Also, one of my favorite movies I saw over the break was Awkward Silence.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, if you follow them on social media, Alex was the DP on that, and it was a funny thing that happened because the sound was not working properly.
Oh yeah, it's an interesting story.
But it was great. Like, it was such a
That was the exact opposite reaction I think both
Manny
and myself probably expected. I actually walked out. I mean, I've already seen it so many times. So it wasn't like I walked out because I was like, oh, this is horrible. But like, I was just worried that, how is the crowd going to react? And it was interesting to see that people surprisingly liked when the sound was bad. Like, I was like,
it wasn't that it was bad. It just it was, you couldn't really hear it.
Yeah.
That's
objectively bad.
I think that's what bad is, Dan. I think that's exactly what bad
because
is.
it seemed like it was. If you didn't know, we would have thought that was the movie.
But the theme, it matched the theme of the movie.
Surprisingly.
which is interesting.
I think that's what I heard from them was like that it was because it was form-fitting to the narrative that it just felt like, oh, was this intentional? Because this feels great. Like, because I think the subtitles were working, but the audio wasn't. And people.
No, it was the one without the subtitle. Audio worked, but there was no subtitles. And the one with subtitles, audio didn't work.
Yeah, it was like,
but it worked out in that sense because we were able to read what they were saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was just the dialogue too, which was a really weird thing. Like the music and like sound effects were fine, but just the dialogue.
It was just the dialogue.
So something happened along that track apparently. But
that's curious.
Yeah, it was really weird. But people who saw it for the first time, again, for some reason, it was a different experience and they enjoyed it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And congratulations also on winning honorable mention of Best Feature at the Highland Film Festival.
Yeah, definitely.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really awesome.
I also saw Black Klansman this break. That was also a fantastic movie. If you haven't gotten a chance to go watch it, be prepared to bring a lot of tissues because Spike Lee does such a great job at juxtaposition of the two different types of people power. You had white power on one side and black power on the other, and you realize just by the way that he plays with the mechanics of the photography, it's just an empowering film. And you walk out of it feeling sad because you realize that while there hasn't been much change from the 60s, there are still people who are walking away from it thinking like, oh, we can do better. So it's a really good inspirational film if you guys get a chance to watch it. Mike, did you watch any other movies?
I saw, other than The Nun, I saw...
It's not a good one to watch.
Other than The Nun?
Let's see, what else
should be in the movies.
I saw Predator.
Oh.
Which
I saw Predator as well.
Which you didn't mention, and I know why.
Because I kind of forgot. Actually, Predator itself, it is exactly what you think it's gonna be.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Garbage.
But the deaths were great.
Yeah,
it delivered in terms of gore. Like it wasn't like Venom where you just get like people thrown around. Like Predator, you get like people's spines getting ripped out, and you get to see it. It's pretty gory.
Yeah,
Everything
the story
else,
is stupid.
The
but
story
it's
is so
fun
bad.
action film kind of.
Yeah.
Agree.
That's what I heard is like its biggest complaint was that it wasn't scary. And people were expecting scary, but it was just fun.
Yeah.
I would say that's accurate.
Yeah.
Also, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to mention another movie. 22 July just came out. That's on Netflix, and you can watch it if you have Netflix if you're subscribed. And it is fantastic. Paul Greengrass delivers in a greatly emotional narrative about like what it is to come out of a terrorist attack and not focus on the villains.
Yeah, the movie.
So if you get a chance, watch the movie because the first 20 minutes I think focuses on the terrorist attack, but the remainder, the movie's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. The remainder of the 2 hours is a story about how people overcome, how do people get through
that trauma.
PTSD, and how people, especially the politicians, deal with the politically incisive situation without building walls. So it's a really, really fun, interesting story about hope. So I say watch that one too.
I'll check that out. That sounds great. Yeah. Oh, what else did I see? I saw this foreign film called Fat Buddies.
Oh, you mentioned this. I remember you mentioned it. So it was great.
It's a silly, forgettable comedy. I think there's a lot of lowbrow humor as expected.
Yeah.
And
based on that name,
it's like a popcorn flick, pretty much.
Yeah.
And if you want cheap laughs,
what type of horror film is it?
I believe it's Chinese.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Yeah.
It's. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong.
Oh, you racist!
A bunch of Korean people just shaking their head at you right now.
Wow, Mike,
all the crazy. Oh,
Mike is not affiliated with this podcast. I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there.
I also saw Hereditary this break.
Oh yeah.
What did you think of it?
Because Mike kept on saying I'm really interested to tell your opinion on it, and I think you guys give it a dine in.
I did, yes.
Yeah, and you were entirely wrong. It wasn't a dine in at all. It was It was even barely for me, anyways. I came across.
That's interesting.
I was so disappointed by the ending. Yes, the ending ruined the whole.
What did you? I kind of agree. The ending is very like you've seen it before. It was not shocking.
I needed it to be more.
I'd say dine in. I'd say for sure 100% dine in. I think the last 15 minutes is some of the most terrifying imagery.
Really?
Imagery. Like if you just like take frames from that and we're like, here, look at this frame. It's like terrifying.
I
I think about that movie when I was like at home alone. I'd be like quiet at night. I'd be like. Like that creepy feeling, or like going down your spine, like something behind me, like that feeling that does is so.
I had the opposite effect, where I was just bored the entire last 15 minutes, going like, oh, I know where this is gonna go, and I'm so bored of it already. Can it just finish? And then exactly what I expect happens. But the whole build up to those 15 minutes of the last 15 minutes of the movie were fantastic. But once it gets there, I was like. You've lost me completely.
Maybe it's like a narrative to imagery thing. Like you're talking about narrative. Yeah, narratively, it's like you kind of see things that are going to happen. But like the imagery, like just looking at like what's happening, like if there was no narrative with that, it's just terrifying. Like just some of those images, like of the. I mean, can I spoil it?
No.
I don't. I guess I should spoil it. There's just some frames that I would say are.
But for me, what the movie reminded me a lot of was the Paranormal Activity, the original, the original uncut version.
It was like Paranormal Activity.
But the problem was that the last 15 minutes was a Paranormal 5 activity. So you really,
it was more.
It just
felt
one. Like the Mark ones. Yeah, it just jumped so hard from like where it was like spooky supernatural stuff to okay, we're gonna give you everything you want.
I still enjoyed it. I thought that was
it was good. I just didn't think it was a dine-in.
I agree with Alex. Where I feel like they were very.
I agree with the man whose point of view is exactly like mine.
That's usually how it happens.
But that says a lot though, because I don't think me and Alex agree on a lot of films.
Sure.
I know,
which means you're wrong.
Go on.
So, but I feel like the way they approached I felt like it was like the horror was subtle, like, and it was a slow build, and there was never any really jump scares, which I appreciated, and I felt like the mood was similar to The Witch, but I felt I
agree.
I felt like
there was definitely a witch element.
Did you guys
love the witch element.
Wow.
The witch
so
was great.
You liked The Witch, but you didn't like this one.
Because the witch's ending was like it was still kind of like there was a nuance to the ending itself where you're like, either she's lost her shit or this is actually happening, and I totally bought into it. For Hereditary, it was like they haven't lost their shit, this is really happening. That's kind of where I'm like, okay, thank you for spoon feeding me that. I wanted to believe more than I wanted to see.
I think that The Witch is a more complete film.
Yes.
Like if you watch it from beginning to end, even literally again going back to imagery, the very first frame and almost the very last frame like bookend that film so perfectly that it's just I think it's a more complete film. But I'm surprised you didn't like this if you liked The Witch.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I would still say watch it at home, but I wouldn't say rush out and pay for it.
Gotcha. And throwing it back in there, tangent.
I know this is supposed to be a review for your other movie, not for Hereditary.
We'll have a Halloween
quickly. Just redemption for myself. Fat Buddies. So it's
did you Google it? Did you look it up?
No. It's Chinese, but there's also Japanese in it, and it bounces back and forth between the two. So one of the Fat Buddies is actually a translator, and it bounces back and forth from Chinese to Japanese. So
that's where your confusion came up.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just remembered. So forgive me for the brain fart for before.
Yeah.
I'm making
you have been forgiven.
I'm looking to see whether or not this movie is actually a Korean film, and you got it
all the Japanese audiences now pleased that you remember.
It's Chinese, but there is a little Japanese in it.
It is Chinese.
Thank you.
And they speak Mandarin.
Thank you for fact checking.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Fat checking.
Yes, there it is.
Thank you.
We have a comment. Christopher Velasco says Z always hates everything.
Well,
which is true. Chris is not right. Hi, Chris.
Yeah, Chris has actually been on the show before, and Chris will know that I generally have a higher standard for horror than he does because he's so. Yeah, he likes.
No, Chris has a pretty good standard for horror.
He does, but he likes a lot of horror movies, and they're okay. And hey, listen, I already talked to Chris about this. This is a great podcast. But we actually did talk about this, and he agreed on the Hereditary.
Yeah. Really? On that note, let's move on to our actual official movie news that we wanted to talk about. Which first up is the Aladdin teaser trailer that just was released by Disney. What did you guys think about? And remember, it's a teaser trailer, so it just shows basic outside of Agrabah. And then going to the deserts.
Yes.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about?
Can I go? Do you want me to take it? All right, thank you. First swing, thank you. I'm gonna channel Rigo and say.
Should we talk about the trailer first before we get into that?
You just did. I'll channel Rigo and I'll say that this movie was a waste of time. You shouldn't release teasers. Show a complete package because right now it looks like a carbon copy, and according to what I keep hearing on the internet, it probably will be in fact a carbon copy, and it just wasn't necessary to see it. We get it. We know it's being released. You share the poster online. Why do you need to release a stupid, half-assed trailer at all? Like this was just kind of pointless to me.
Yeah, most teasers in general I find are kind of pointless.
That's what
because
I'm
like, cool. You've shown that you were making a film, cool. But you're I don't like. There's a lot of elements that I still am really curious about. Like the Will Smith casting is like really weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fact that it's Guy Ritchie, I'm like curious to see where his style kind of comes in. Are they just gonna is Disney gonna control him?
Right.
Or are they gonna let him do what he wants, like with King Arthur or something, where they just were like, do your thing, and it was kind of weird, But. I don't know.
It's lock, stock, it's just smoking barrels, and
What do you guys said that Aladdin was gonna have a Cockney accent?
Yeah,
exactly.
There isn't much to say about it. You could say the sand looked cool.
The music was good.
The music was similar to the cartoon.
The tiger sounded about the same.
The tiger did sound about the same. That's pretty much all you see. It looks great.
The desert tiger, not
not the
Iago
looked a little shitty in my opinion, but that's like CGI birds in a nutshell.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, it will need to do a lot, and I don't know if it can. My other problem is, and I need to look at the casting, but I know that they've got a majority of Egyptian. I don't want to be mistaken, but I know they've got a lot of Middle Eastern people on the cast.
Minus, though, there was like a whole scandal where the extras, they were...
Oh, please tell me they were all white.
Some of them were white.
Brilliant.
And they were... I don't know. They were giving them tens or.
Sounds about right.
Disney.
Sounds like Disney. Anyways,
wait, we have a comment. JJ
Yes.
Sutter says, "I'm on the fence for Aladdin. I agree with Z."
thank you.
Don't do that. And Irma,
Yeah, my mom
says, "Hola."
Yeah, hi, she's in Mexico right now. Hello.
Hola.
But another note on this, I did read on the internet that the two writers of the original Aladdin movie, and now, right, these are two writers who are given credit for the script, not what Robin Williams did. Well, anyways, this is, who are these two guys? Terry Rossio and Ted Elliott. And what they've shared on Twitter was that they are not getting paid for the remake of the movie. So the fact that they have taken direct quotes, the rhyme from the trailers, same rhyme from the movie itself, the cartoon, and they are not paying those writers. So what do you guys think of that? Of Disney, the reason why Disney's redoing these, not just for money, because they don't have to repay the writers for the scripts that were originally written.
Yeah, they gotta pay them.
Yeah, yeah.
Or at least give them residuals.
Yeah.
Some mention.
just an honorable mention. Just be like, hey.
Now, if it's their work, they got to get paid somehow.
Yeah.
So it's a lawsuit waiting to happen.
It really is. Yeah. So what they wrote was so strange that literally the only words spoken in a new Aladdin trailer happened to be the rhyme that my writing partner and I wrote, and Disney offers zero compensation to us or to any screenwriters on any of these live action remakes. So that includes Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella. Yeah. So not even a T-shirt or a pass to the park. You know, those passes are pretty expensive.
Yeah, really expensive. Yeah. Come on, Disney.
Come on. The very least you can do is renew their annual passes.
Hashtag Disney, do the right thing.
Yeah. So that's
it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the next trailer that we're going to talk about is the final Glass trailer that came out. What do you guys think about that?
It looks.
Mike, you're the M. Night Shyamalan apologist. What do you think of that?
He's not.
I like that.
He's not though. I'm more of an apologist than
Dan was on the M. Night Shyamalan train before I was.
What was it?
The Visit.
The Visit. Yeah.
The Visit, which
That's right. You were the apologist for that. That's
which
right.
I also did not like. Like I did not like everything from The Happening on. So in between that era, and the film that won me over from M. Night Shyamalan was Split, which was surprisingly a lot of fun. It had a lot of M. Night Shyamalan-isms, I guess, in terms of like dialogue. The dialogue gets really hokey and silly at times, but it more than makes up for it. I'm talking about Split here. It more than makes up for it in terms of the hokiness in that dialogue. But I'm looking forward to Glass. I think everything's been building up to this since Unbreakable, so this is years and years in the making for M. Night Shyamalan. So I hope he delivers on this. So
I don't think he will.
Fun.
I just don't think he has the capacity to make a good movie.
I kind of
without hold on, without a limited budget or at least anything that limits him. Because once he has a limit, he's creative. The reason why Signs was so good, the reason why what's the first one he made?
Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense was so good was because nobody knew him as well. And once his ego went up, that's when he started creating terrible movies. So the fact that he has this and now he's building his own comic book franchise, I think he's going to blunder it. I don't think he's going to do a good job on it. I love
still
Split.
Limited, though. I think this budget is still limited because it's still from Blumhouse.
It is still Blumhouse. Well, but it could also be his money as well. So they did make a lot of money from Split. Yeah. So that's what my issue is that I don't think I think he's creative. I just don't think he's able to execute without some limits.
Okay. I think if they have some control over it, I think it's still going to be good. Yeah. I mean, since he got under their roster, I think he's been doing pretty good for the most part. Yeah. And I think Split was surprisingly good.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think Unbreakable was really good. I remember when I saw that a long time ago. I mean, whenever that was, I don't know, 5-10 years ago. I thought it was his best movie, more than even Sixth Sense or anything. I was like, this is a surprising movie from someone like M. Night Shyamalan. So I don't know. I think that if there's one section of movies or series movies that he does well, it's these weird kind of comic book films that he's doing. I don't know. I have faith in it, and also because the people involved with it, it's the fact that Samuel Jackson is involved, the fact that Bruce Willis is involved, and James McAvoy is involved. I feel those kind of actors of their caliber, I think, will take a good movie. I think they probably think it's going to be pretty good, or they must have something that's drawing it to them, or they're drawing them to it.
Also, what I think that he has spent a lot of time world building this series.
Sure.
So I think with that, we're invested, and I feel like he's going to do a good job. So I'm hopeful.
I think the next one, if there's another one after this, that's when I think what you said is probably going to come true. Fair. I think that's when, if he goes further into this universe, I think it might get really bad. Yeah. This might be the good spot where, it's just getting, the third movie might be good, but
this is the trilogy, this is the third, actually, the third technically. Because we got Unbreakable, Split, and now Glass.
Yeah.
And
which is cool titles.
Yeah,
Unbreakable, Split, and then...
Yeah. So I agree with you. This should be the closer here.
If it isn't, then I don't know.
Yeah.
Then be worried.
I would be too as well. Yeah.
All right. On that note, let's go ahead and move over to the movie review for Bad Times at El Royale. Movie menu. All right. The movie we're reviewing is Bad Times at the El Royale, directed and written by Drew Goddard. Here's the plot. 7 strangers, each with a secret to bury, meet at the Lake Tahoe's El Royale, a rundown hotel with a dark past. Over the course of one fateful night, everyone will have a last shot at redemption before everything goes to hell. It stars Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Erivo, Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, and John Hamm. All right, guys, so we've all seen this film. So depending on our spoiler-free review, we shall decide this movie's worth a dine-in, watch in the theaters, takeout, wait and watch it at home, or leftovers. Go ahead and be seduced by our cult leader. And
I mean, to be fair,
that's pretty good.
To be fair, his midriff and his dancing in this movie,
worth it.
Totally worth
gyrating?
His gyrating. His Buffalo Bill dance. It was a Buffalo Bill dance where he was just doing would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. And I was like, I've seen that dance before.
I mean, kind of good abs.
I mean, yeah.
A lot of sit-ups, probably.
On that note, Alex, if you win, you have a chance to earn a point. So as we no longer are going to have points for us anymore, we've retired that so that way our guests can have segments.
Yes.
So we're reviewing 2 movies, so you have an opportunity to win 2 points today. No pressure. No pressure. All the pressure. All right, guys, let's go ahead and rate this film. Alex, as our guest, you go first.
I'll do dine-in. I think I'd say dine-in. Do I need
Is that
a hard dine-in?
I think it's a hard. I mean, I'm a little bit on the. No, I'm gonna say hard dine-in for sure.
All right,
Mike.
Okay, I'm gonna say dine-in as well.
Okay.
All right. Z, this is your most anticipated film of this season.
This was it really? It was because for me, Drew Goddard, me and Drew Goddard go back. And when I say that, I don't mean we know each other at all. He doesn't know me. I'm a big fan of Drew Goddard.
You never know.
Because maybe he does. But it's because Drew Goddard worked on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He then worked on several JJ projects, including Lost. He also did one of my all-time favorite horror metas, Cabin in the Woods.
Yes.
And just like Cabin in the Woods, this film has that meta element to it, and I remember talking about it when we were talking about anticipation. Was that it reminded me of a Tarantino film, but better. And with that being said, it was a Tarantino film, just well done, and I absolutely loved it. I'm gonna say it's a soft dine-in. It's not his best work, but just because it isn't his best work doesn't mean that it's still not a lot of fun. It's honestly, I went in and there was a lot of moments of scares in this movie where it was super suspenseful, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. Every part of this movie, to the gyration elements. I wish I was in a room, and I hope there's behind the scenes of footage of Drew Goddard going no, you need to really gyrate. Here, let me show you how to do it. Chris Hemsworth, you and your hunky abs. It's a great movie. It's a movie that is about 2 different places, and each of the characters has that. They're all split, and not to use the M. Night Shyamalan, but they're all split in some way. In the same way the hotel split between Nevada and California, all these characters have a split, and they all have to reach a conclusion. I thought the The conclusions were amazing in this movie. The character growth in this film was just phenomenal.
I'm also going to say a soft dine-in. It's actually kind of 2/3 a good movie to me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, no, and we'll talk a little bit about that because I do agree with there is some moments in this film that do slow down.
Yeah. Totally agree on that.
Mm-hmm. Majority of when Chris Hemsworth comes on screen.
Yeah, actually, that's pretty spot on.
Yeah. I kind of wish there was more of a build-up for Chris Hemsworth.
I agree.
That's where I was.
That's the whole thing. Is
totally.
The movie is sold as 7 Strangers with Secrets.
Yes.
And really, we don't find any secrets really of anyone.
Yeah. Realistically, there's like 2 leads in this. To me,
yes.
there
No,
was,
I agree. There's Jeff Daniels and
Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. I was confused.
And Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah.
Well, and then the bellhop guy. You kind of get a little bit of his secrets eventually.
Which that's go ahead. Sorry, man.
No, it's okay. I think it's like. It felt like it was kind of shoved in there for this.
But for the plot.
For the plot.
You were talking about
I was hoping it would be like.
Yeah. Oh, no. I disagree. I think. I disagree with that entirely. I think
it's super fun. Don't get me wrong.
I thought that was like a Deus Ex Machina that was
totally
required because part of the story, right? And again, I always revert back to.
But it was still a Deus Ex Machina, though.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
But I can't deny the fun.
It was so much fun because like the thing about Cabin in the Woods was that there's a story about the house and what's going on in Cabin in the Woods. For El Royale, the story is the bellhop, and the story plays out in that it's telling the story of the bellhop. So you're getting all these characters, and they're all telling you what's actually happening in the background. So when you do get the bellhop story, boys, it just felt great to see that kind of come up. And yes, I agree. It's an Ex Machina, but it's still a very fun one.
It's probably one of the funnest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So,
but I was hoping for more R-rated, which I'm not sure this movie was. I don't think it was. Or more thriller, like Clue type of thing.
Okay.
Like a not comedic type, like an actual why are they here? What's going on? And we don't really get that. I guess it's fine because the movie itself is good from what we get, but I personally wanted more from it.
It was
sorry, no, go ahead.
No, it was almost like it reminded me of I guess the best example I could think of is like Groundhog's Day or something. No, maybe not Groundhog's Day.
4 Rooms.
But you just 4 Rooms is actually a great reference to it. 4 Rooms. But unlike 4 Rooms where it feels like 4 separated vignettes, it's more of 4 different perspectives of the same experience occurring over and over again. So trying to quickly think of a film similar to that, but
Vantage Point, but that's something I can think of. But that movie's not that good either.
So unlike what Dan was mentioning he wanted, which I agree with, I think it would have been better if there would have been a mystery and each thing would have uncovered a new clue to figure out what was happening. You're immediately given what it is, and then you're given different experiences of that, but you just keep getting it drilled into you over and over again. But I think what saves this film, or the strength of this film, I feel like is Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo, excuse me. Yeah, Cynthia Erivo. I thought they were amazing, and I feel like that's what carried this film.
Yeah, I feel like going back to the Tarantino reference, I left thinking the same thing. It's not a film that necessarily is wholly original, and I think that's what Drew Goddard is like. He's a smart guy, and I think he's watched a lot of movies. That's why he did something like Cabin in the Woods. He's seen all those movies. He knows where how to break him down, and I think that's what he did with this one too. And I think it's like a movie like a Hateful Eight, but but funnier and better done, and not as gory. I think Hateful Eight was actually kind of disappointing to me, and this one took that idea of these strangers in one place and let's bring them all in, how are they trapped here, and did all of its strengths and had very little of its weaknesses. Because Hateful Eight just eventually gets long. Eventually, it's it's not funny enough to kind of keep you going. The characters aren't interesting enough, really, and then it just devolves into kind of the typical Tarantino fest of blood everywhere, and this didn't need that. It kind of was hey, there is violence and there are some gruesome moments, but it wasn't the strength of it. It was more about the people.
Now, what did you guys think about the storytelling? Because it goes in and out from flashbacks to, and they have, each person has their moment. Where it's like there's a title card with their room number.
Well, to just to address a little quickly before we go into that, but and to tie right into that, like the idea of 4 rooms. So if you guys haven't watched 4 rooms, it's an amazing.
There's 4 different directors.
4 different directors that tell 4 different stories in 4 different rooms. It's beautiful. It's a brilliant film.
It's great.
I remember watching that one time at midnight. Just the first time watching it, like at midnight, staying up till like 2 a.m, just enjoying that. So this movie, what it does, it takes a little bit of those, like the cuts, right, to tell its stories. And I think by doing that, it allows you to focus, like, all right, the narrative's going to focus on this. We're going to do the behind the scenes of what happened to these characters before they got here. And I thought that, as Mike keeps saying, like, Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo carried this movie so well because I cared about those two. Cynthia Erivo's character, for me, was like, wow, like to be able to showcase the Me Too movement in this type of film was really fun. Yeah, because I think you were talking about, there's like a Phil Spector moment where she's a singer who is trying to make it big in Motown. Or is that just me?
I'm assuming it's Motown. Yeah, it seems very Motown.
Yeah, and so, but she gets confronted by this guy, this producer, who's like, if you want it, you got to do something else. And I thought that the way that they structured that narrative and her, again, like her character growth from being like this passive individual to being this very assertive and slightly aggressive person, going like, no, I'm not going to hear your bullshit. I'm done with your bullshit.
Yeah,
was that moment for me, like, and that's in the second third of the film, was so badass. And I was like, that's a character growth that we would not have seen her when she came in. You didn't see that character, but when you see the very final scenes, you're like, that's the character that walks out of that hotel, and it's amazing. And I thought that the way that Jeff Bridges' character, again, right, it's told in this very unstructured, chaotic way, but that fits because his character, and this is not a spoiler, this is talked about in the trailer, has issues with his memory. And the fact that the whole movie is told in that way just makes complete sense, because so does the movie. The movie also has issues with its memory, and it's just bouncing back and forth, going like, I don't know where I'm going at this point, but we know that the structure is going in this direction. So I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And how did you guys feel about the narrative and how they tell the story?
I mean, I love these kind of bouncing movies. I mean, I've loved it since probably, I mean, I like Pulp Fiction is like the one I can think of that really started it. I'm sure there was like, it probably didn't start it. I'm sure like there's something way before that I'm not thinking of. But this kind of storytelling is nothing new. But I've always enjoyed it. It's like nothing that every time that someone's done it, I think it works. And I think they use it really well because everyone you want to know a little bit more about, and it gives you just enough info to get you that little bit of backstory, but doesn't reveal totally maybe why they're there. Maybe Jeff Bridges a little bit, you kind of understand why he's doing what he's doing. I think the John Hamm character, you don't really get that, which is sad because I think he's really interesting.
And, he's such a great actor.
And he's such a great actor. His story, I would love to know more about, but we don't get as much about him. Yeah. But it's cool that he is the person that like kind of finds out more about the hotel. Like that moment where he finds the hotel is like one of the most interesting bits of like well shot like movie making that I've seen. Like I try not to spoil anything because I guess would that be a spoiler?
I think it's in the trailer.
It's in the trailer. Yeah, okay, so then when he finds out that the rooms are all being watched,
it is.
That there's this whole like one take moment of him like going from room to room and like almost getting glimpses of each person, like what we're about to see in the coming moments of the film. And it's like so well shot, and it kind of is so metaphorical about what's about to happen that I don't know. It's like it's just beautiful, and I don't know. I think it's really good storytelling. I think it works really well.
But I think people who, because again, Drew Goddard, he wrote for Lost. If anybody is a Lost fan, will know that the way that they treat John Hamm's character is like a direct line from where they wanted to do Lost originally. So it was interesting when it happens. I was like, he finally got to do it because it's such a subversive moment where you're just kind of like, yes, that's kind of what I want. I don't want to. Anyways, I don't want to spoil it.
No, it's fine. I just want to say one more thing about that is what I really enjoyed this film is there's a lot of really good visual storytelling.
Yes.
Like even from the very beginning, because like the first time we see, so technically the beginning of the movie starts on Nick Offerman.
Yes.
With this really like wide shot, you see it. So it kind of sets up what's going to be this hotel and something that's going to happen.
The door opens and you see the light.
And there's like him bearing money, and it's like this really interesting moment.
And it's a very voyeur moment too.
Yeah. And when it's almost like we know that this character is not going to be important based on how they're showing him. But the first time you see someone that's important is Cynthia Erivo's character, and then you know like we're about to be involved in her story for most of it, which we do. And then the next time you see another character is Jeff Bridges, and they're walking this line together, and you realize that they're the two parts of this story. So they visually tell you that without having to actually really say that directly, which is really interesting. And I think that happens a lot throughout the film. And that's why I really appreciated this film, I think, a lot, because they don't need to tell you everything, and that's good storytelling.
And the character growths are when those lines, when they intersect. Yeah. Because there's a lot of intersects in this moment with Cynthia's character and with Jeff Bridges' character, where they intersect, and you're just kind of like, whoa! Now they have switched. They've switched characters in some way, but they're still themselves. But it's just. Again, as you're saying, it's visual storytelling, and there's a moment where she picks up a gun, and this is in the trailer. She points it at the priest, at Jeff Bridges' character, and you're like, now she's the bad guy. Yeah. Who am I unsure as to whom I'm rooting for? Another thing that I really wanted to say was the sound editing in this movie was fantastic. Cynthia Erivo's voice is beautiful, and there's a moment where she's clapping and somebody is hammering. And it's like each clap, it's a hammer blow, and it just the sound editing of that moment was just spot on. And I was like, "This is," the whole scene is so tense that you're just kind of like, "Don't miss a clap, don't miss a clap." And it's like everything about that was just great directing.
So we've been talking about Cynthia Erivo and Jeff Bridges. Let's talk about the rest of the cast, like Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, Kaylee Spaney.
Yeah.
She
played Rose.
Rose, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you want to?
You guys can take it.
Yeah. I thought they were a great supporting cast. As we're saying, like the leads of this story are clearly Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo, but the supporting cast, like
Lewis Pullman, who plays Miles.
Lewis Pullman, as we were saying, Miles is the hotel. He's telling the story of the hotel, of this beast of a creation that. You're not really clear what side of the fence it's on, and I love it because as soon as they walk in, Miles's character tells him, like, you're not a priest, you're not a padre, you're not supposed to be here. This is not a place for priests. And I think that line itself is directed in a way that it's directing at Jeff Bridges, but it's actually just telling the whole story there. This is not a place for faith, and I think that's where the growth comes in. So I thought the way that Miles, I've never seen him in anything, I don't think, but I loved him. He was great. He played this a meek character so well that when he turns and it becomes this like oh shit moment, it was just brilliant. I think ultimately Chris Hemsworth is like awesome in this movie. He's very rarely shown, but when he is in the scene, he's like
Charles Manson.
He is Charles Manson. He's absolutely Charles Manson.
That was the fun thing about this film is like it's about the 60s, but I think they don't want to directly ever reference certain people. Yeah. And so these characters are definitely playing certain people. Like for sure, Chris Hemsworth is supposed to be kind of this Charles Manson type character. There was another one we were talking about earlier where it's the actor Xavier Dolan, who's not like a big name person, but he's a director and he's an actor too. And he made a movie called Mommy a few years back, if you've seen Mommy, and it's a really good movie. And he plays a kind of Phil Spector type character. And so like each person was kind of some type of person that was probably referencing something important from that era. Mm-hmm. I do think that the film is really heavily carried by Jeff Bridges and Cynthia Erivo. I do think everyone else was good and like helped their moments. Mm-hmm. I do think that without those two really strong leads, though, I think it would have potentially fallen apart. Who knows? Yeah. But I think, John Hamm is great. I do think, what was Miles' character? It was Lewis
Pullman.
Lewis Pullman. Chris Hemsworth is good, but like they're lost in this really great cast of characters and the strengths of Jeff Bridges.
But also Dakota Johnson's in it, and every time I see Dakota Johnson in any movie, I get scared and worried. But I think she did a pretty good job. I think great. I'm finally like not seeing her as the 50 Shades person, but now I'm seeing her as like this pretty She plays not the woman in black. What in noir films?
The femme fatale?
She plays the femme fatale. She walks into the room and she's got a cigarette going and everything, and she signs her name, fuck you, and you're like, yeah, she is. She's definitely the femme fatale. And I thought she did a fantastic job of like playing that. Again, there's a duality here in the story. There's a duality in her character, and I think she played it really, really well. Yeah.
I haven't seen 50 Shades, so I actually
going into this. Oh, you're so lucky.
I know.
I've never seen it either.
Oh, you're so lucky.
So it almost like didn't even dawn. I was just like, oh yeah, I've seen her somewhere. I don't remember where I've seen her. So there was like no preconceived notion of like, oh, how should I treat this actor in this movie? And I think that's actually kind of a strength of a lot of the characters in the movies and the actors, because while she's more famous, but that's just me subjectively not seeing those movies. But like someone like Louis Pullman, someone like Cynthia Erivo, who everyone after I saw it with a few people, I saw it with my girlfriend and my friend Moses and his girlfriend, and we saw it, and then afterwards we were all like standing there going like, who was the singer? Like, who was that actress? I've never seen her in anything, but she was like fantastic. And I think that was like the story of a lot of the actors in the movie. You're just like, they were so different than what they're used to, or I've never even heard of them before, but they were all great.
Yeah. And I just think about also all of the like first time actors they put in films, and how sometimes because it falls on their shoulders, they can't really hold on to the film that well. But I think that Cynthia Erivo was just, I cared about her, and I think
she's a Broadway actress.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely, but Broadway theater and film are two different beasts, and the fact that she can carry the film emotionally with her eyes, and more importantly, like her like aggravation towards the man and the structure of things, like that, she carried that so well. And then there's that moment of freedom where you see her singing for the first time. And I was like spellbound. I was like, wow, that is, and so is John Hamm's character. And you're just kind of like, whoa, how is this? And then the way that her voice is carried into each of the rooms is just, and I'm pretty sure there is a reason why Drew Goddard chose these songs, because it just, everything in this movie feels like it was chosen, and it's just well done. And again, my most anticipated film, and it lived up to the hype.
All right, final thoughts.
Surprising.
Surprising. Yes, I know. You
say that.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's your final thought.
That is my final thought.
I was really surprised about it. I actually didn't really know about this film until probably about a month ago, maybe. I'm really behind on movie news, so that's just me. So, but when I saw the trailer, immediately I was like, that looks like something I'm going to enjoy. Yeah. And I went in, and it was everything I had hoped it would be. It was like super enjoyable, fun, kind of mystery type drama. Whatever. It's a mashup of everything. It's this very Drew Goddard type film, and I think it's definitely a great time at the movie theater. So I think you should try to see it when you can.
Yeah. Absolutely. There was more music involved than I expected, which was a very nice surprise.
Good music too.
Yeah,
great music.
Yeah, great singing. Great overall. So I definitely recommend going to watch it for sure.
Yeah. Drew Goddard did it again. Yes, so let's go ahead and we rate that a dine-in. Alex, you get a point.
Hey!
That's one. Good job. That's
one down. Now here comes.
This is the big one.
Here's the big one.
I know.
Is everybody ready?
Yeah. So we're gonna transition. I'm gonna toss the hosting news over to Z in a bit. Here we go. Movie menu. So, Z, you are now hosting First Man.
Yes, the movie we're reviewing is The First Man.
Just First Man.
The First Man. It's The First Man. No, it's First Man. Directed and written by Damien Chazelle, based on the book by James R. Hansen. Oh, sorry, screenwritten by Josh Singer. Starring Ryan Gosling, Claire Foy, Jason Clarke, Corey Stoll, and Kyle Chandler. I know Chandler. Yeah, that's a good guy. Here's the plot. A look at the life of the astronaut Neil Armstrong and the legendary space mission that led to him to become the first man to walk on the moon on July 20th.
I like how you keep emphasizing the...
All right, guys, I have not watched this film, so depending on your spoiler-free review, I would choose whether or not this movie is a dine-in, watch it in theaters, a take-out, watch it at home, or leftovers. Shoot for the stars and launch yourself into space, or you'll suffocate and die.
All right, sounds good.
Or yeah,
or no one could literally hear you scream.
Literally hear you scream. All right. Again, since you're the guest, you get to go first. But if you do earn the point, because we no longer earn points, you'll develop your own segment. Sure. So, Alex, rate this film.
I'm saying like a really soft takeout.
Wow.
Really soft, like really like almost
close to leftovers,
really close leftovers,
stinking leftovers, like as if you got yourself like some pho and left it in the refrigerator for about 5 days.
Pretty much.
Wow. Okay.
And I mean, it's like better leftovers than that. Like it's like a good leftover, like just a day old leftover.
Okay.
But it's still
like pizza,
but I would
pizza,
take it out, and I'm like, I'm gonna eat this tomorrow.
Okay, like cold pizza.
Yeah, cold pizza.
Okay.
It's too cold pizza.
Which may or may not have had a roach on it. You don't know.
No, it's good. It's good.
No.
Quality pizza.
It's still good quality pizza. Okay, sure.
What kind of pizzas are you eating, Mike? Jeez.
Well, we know, Mike.
Find them in the dumpsters.
Yeah, there's a reason why we're outside.
That's the reason why we're outside.
I got to keep my equipment.
Mike, rate this film.
Actually, so this was a dine-in for me.
Okay.
But I have to say that this is a very slow film.
Yeah.
And I know, and I'm not saying that Alex...
That's what you're saying, exactly.
Exactly what you're
like slow films.
You're disagreeing with a man who just disagreed with you. That means that you're disagreeing with him.
No, I was going to say
explain why.
I know that Alex appreciates slow films as well. So, but
one would even say boring. No,
most of the films I like are boring.
Yeah, you did like Jackie after all.
I love Jackie.
I love Jackie too. Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Which
we did this. Yeah, I remember.
yeah, which me and Dan hated.
Me and Mike hated.
Oh, okay. But you loved this one.
I did, and I really enjoyed the build-up, and it felt like a documentary, and I felt like it was very well-rounded in terms of story, but I felt like it was very, very rough in terms of cinematography, and we'll get more into that, but I'll leave it there for now.
Dan?
I think it's a dine-in as well.
Okay.
And I disagree with you, Mike, in that sense. It's funny because we both have the same rating, but I don't feel like it was a documentary at all. I felt like they focused on an emotional struggle that he had, and that was the central story for the movie. And I felt like that was... When you're watching Neil Armstrong, you think that his life's work was going on the moon. But you really see the man behind that.
Yes.
Which I really enjoyed. The moon, the whole of him going to the moon was kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
In the sense, it was really this man who struggled with the tragedy and how he dealt with that afterwards.
But it feels like you're just hanging out with
by
him.
going to the moon.
No. Yeah, sorry, it feels like you're hanging out with him like all this time through everything, and you get to see him as his whole character. I feel like it, both in terms of like how the space program is run, and how his life is, how the family's trying to keep it all together. Like, it feels like nothing's really glorified. It just feels like everybody's lost and just trying to figure it out. And I appreciated that, and that I feel like that for me, that was one of the strengths of this film.
Now, we should say that Damien Chazelle is the one that did Whiplash and La La Land.
That,
yes.
So...
And that's what makes
hosting. Sorry.
Yeah. Listen, are you reading over my notes over here? Because that's exactly what I'm writing.
I can't read your chicken scratch.
Well, that's why I do a chicken scratch. All right.
I'm sure Dan knew that.
I'm gonna let Alex. I want to hear your dissenting opinion, because I've heard nothing but great things about this film, and actually I've heard in fact the opposite of what you guys are talking about. So what is it about this film that just made it so weak? Like, when you were talking, I was thinking about Tree of Life, like that kind of slow moving.
Like it.
What did Moses think?
He loved it. So that was the interesting thing. Like, his first thing he said, I was like, "Hey, what did you think?" He said, "It was beautiful." That was his first thing he said, and I said, "Wow, I totally disagree." Like, just immediately, like, it was like, no, because I'd have to break it down from each piece, like why I didn't like it, like, because there's like different things I didn't like. So first thing is, I don't think Ryan Gosling is a very good actor. I think initially that is the because you're following him for so much of the film. It's about him. Yeah. And I don't think he's a very good actor. I think he's always not been... He's been, like, okay in some roles. It all depends if you like Ryan Gosling.
Blade Runner 2049?
Hold on. He knows his audience. I'm agreeing with him on this. I'm like, I don't agree with he's a good actor either.
I think from the last 5 or 6 movies, he's slowly declined. And funny enough, I was like, is this how Neil Armstrong really was? Because I was like, is this like, was he just this like blank-faced, like emotionless person that Ryan Gosling is portraying him as? And I watched like an interview of him like later on, and I was like, okay, he was kind of close.
Like stoic.
He's kind of stoic. He's kind of like that monotone, but like it still doesn't save it from me, like, thinking that he wasn't strong enough to carry the film for me. And because we're watching him for so long,
did he get outshined by?
I thought he was great in it.
I didn't think he was great at all.
Did he get outshined by any of the actors?
I think he got outshined by probably pretty much everyone.
Wow.
I think that everyone else. I think his wife was fantastic. Claire Foy was great. Whoever plays Buzz,
Corey Stoll.
Yeah, Corey Stoll was great. I think but
Buzz Aldrin was such an asshole.
Yeah, but he had something there. I was like, what? Like, there's a moment that was really fantastic right in the beginning of the film.
And that's crazy because from the whole time when I didn't realize that he had a daughter who died.
Me either. And that was his best acting was when that happened.
But that whole thing, like,
in the first
for
10
me,
minutes.
like, I saw in the whole rest of the movie, I knew the story is about his daughter's death, and he always is going to carry that, and that he's always been emotional, and it's just like he's closed himself off from the world after that.
Yeah,
and
I got
that, and I thought he did such a great job with it.
I got it. Narratively, I was like, I still don't think he did. I still was like, you know, like, it's funny, and I thought about this later on too. Is that like did Damien Chazelle? I feel like. So a few years ago, he loses to Moonlight, right? Yes. And that movie is like super understated, and I loved that movie.
I loved Moonlight.
I loved Moonlight.
Yeah.
This looks like Damien Chazelle trying to do Moonlight and failing.
Interesting.
Like he tried to do the style of Moonlight, like try to be like, hey, I'm gonna be understated. Like Whiplash and La La Land is like, woo, look at all this craziness, like all these big acting and like big like musical pieces and like everything's great. And then this comes along and it's like the exact opposite of Damien Chazelle. It's like not Damien Chazelle.
Interesting.
And I think I didn't like that. I was like kind of like, this isn't your style, bro. Like, I don't know if this works for you. And it may be because I'm my bias towards Ryan Gosling as an actor. This may be why. I mean, it could have been Ryan Gosling. It could have been someone else than Ryan Gosling, and I would have enjoyed it.
Do you guys feel like he was trying to shoot for the Oscar?
No, because, well...
I mean, yes.
Course,
I mean, it looks like an
obviously.
Oscar lead.
But I don't agree
film.
that this is him toned down because they show him in space. Like, this
is he dancing in space?
Big,
yeah,
but
it would have been great.
No, but it shows... It's not like it's...
He was
one room intimate. Oh, he's moonlight.
That was for you.
There are Damien Chazelle moments, that's for sure. Like the times when he's flying and there's like things going crazy, like those moments I thought are the best moments of the film.
Yeah.
You're talking about the quiet moments?
Not the quiet moments. I think the moments that are like when things are going wrong, that's when I was like, oh, this is like really intense. And I do think there are some quiet moments that are interesting. I think stuff towards the end of the film when they finally get to the moon is really interesting. But it just, I don't know. I just felt like it was him trying to do something that wasn't him.
That's
interesting. And I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all.
No, I was going to say it was very interesting the choices in terms of how the music was used, because this film is very, very
it's
silent.
the same music as who he used for Whiplash and for La La Land. By the way.
Really?
Justin Hurwitz.
Okay. Yeah, it was for most of the film, it was very, very quiet. So you had a lot of Foley versus music composition. Usually, like, the music was used after an event had happened, which is it's the opposite of most structure of most films in terms of how they use music in it. So it makes for more tension when the bad things are happening, and I appreciated that. Sure. Like it felt very real. Like when you're
in the moment,
if you're stuck in a space shuttle and you're spinning and you can't control it, and there's no music, there's no nothing. It just feels like you're stuck with him. You're locked in there with him. You don't know when it's going to end. I mean, we know historically what happens, but
he dies. No, they make it better.
Yeah, in that moment, like it felt like I was locked in there with him. And there are a lot of moments in this film where it felt like I genuinely experienced that with him, everything, and you get to see all the work involved in all this, and also how.
But is it really? Sorry to interrupt you, but is it really about that? Is this movie not about just Neil Armstrong? Like, is it not just about him? So does it focus too much on the space travel?
No. It's him. It focuses
it's a character study on him.
It's total character study, but it also shows how when people are suffering, how they use work as a diversion.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I think he himself is a workaholic, and you get to see that I agree with Dan, where you see his suffering so much, and he's so afraid to show that, and it carries all throughout the film, where
even to the last moment of the film, which I don't want to say.
Yeah. A lot of like
They make it to the moon.
a lot of his.
There's a moment on the moon that who knows if it happened or not. But
I've heard the controversy. I've heard the controversy.
It was like it definitely pulled the heartstrings for me when it happened. It was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was just those
it was all that. It was that moment.
Yeah, and it was a build-up from the beginning to the end, and I felt like that was like the climax of the film for me. Like it was. Yeah, we can't. Yeah,
I don't want to ruin it.
Addition. Yeah, I don't want to ruin it. But my point is that we get to see Neil Armstrong's like inner struggle throughout this film, not in words, in facial expressions, in how he's using his work to try to shut out the rest of the world and even shut out himself and what he's been suffering.
Well, really,
sorry.
I don't think it's like not about. He's not trying to shut off the world. It's like it's basically the whole film's carried about his daughter's death. Like that's the whole movie.
Yeah,
it's why it motivates him. It's the constant motivation. It's like he's doing it because he can't deal with the grief of his daughter's death, and that's like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And like we see that, and I don't know. It's kind of.
You're a horrible person, Alex.
I don't know. I don't know if it was enough for me to like that he showed that enough. Like I think that moment's great, but I just don't feel like. Ryan Gosling as an actor showed that struggle enough. Like there are moments that I can remember from the film being like, okay, yeah.
So what I'm hearing from you guys is like the sound is very. It's in like there's not a lot of sound.
There is, but just in interestingly choiced.
So
places.
Is this movie a movie that suffers because of pacing as well?
I don't think it suffers. I don't know. It is slower.
I don't think it suffers either.
It is slower paced, but to me, like you get to be. And I feel like it's the absence of the music that causes that feeling. Okay. But it's because of that experience that let me get deeper into it. I can see how some people could be turned off by that. I'm assuming that's not why Alex was turned off by it, but I could see how just general audiences could be turned off by the lack of music in it and just the general feeling of a slow burn.
I was gonna say I think I'm like. I think now I understand. Okay, so the thing is, it's about a moment in history that we already know what happens. They make it to the moon, like surprise. Like we all know it happened.
You mean it wasn't staged?
I know, maybe.
It was filmed like it could have been.
Could have been.
Oh
yeah. How'd they get that tripod shot? Who put that?
Who set the camera?
Actually, they show that how they did.
Oh, okay.
But it's. They try to make this movie, I think, too focused on the idea of getting to the moon, that if they wanted to focus on Neil Armstrong, they should have done more of that. And I feel like there's a lot about them getting to the moon and like showing the drama of that. And I'm like, we already know you got there. We already know all these things. Like these things don't matter. You know, I'm like, if you want me to care about Neil Armstrong, what he's going through, show me more of that. Because like the pace never really got to me. Yeah. I didn't think it's a long movie. There's a point where I was like, it's getting a little long here, but like. It never really totally dragged me down. I was okay with it the whole time. Okay. It was just like I just
couldn't buy Ryan Gosling.
Couldn't buy Ryan Gosling. I think he really. And also, this is another side. This has nothing to do with the acting and the narrative, but the cinematography was not very good. And this is another reason why I think I go to Takeout. If the cinematography was good, I would have said go dive in.
Right, but it was a cinematic. You didn't feel like it was a cinematic movie. Like it just felt.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think they're trying to do this thing where they're trying to make it as documentary feeling as possible.
That's what I meant.
And it doesn't really work for me. I'm like, I get, but we're never really like it. We're not there to watch as a documentary. It should be shown as like this cinematic moment. And there's like great flying shots and there's great shots of space, but like most of the time when you're like with them, it's like stuff was out of focus.
Or they try to make it like a realistic version of it.
Maybe, but like the fact that they use film and the fact that they used it like that kind of gritty feeling to it, they obviously were trying to go for. But like I was like. 25% of the film I felt like was like 25% of the film felt like it was out of focus to me, and that bugged the living hell out of me.
Was that the beginning portion or like the very
just
end?
Throughout the film? Like I'd be like watching it and I'd be like, oh, why is this close up? Why is it out of focus?
Yeah,
and I'm like, like those little moments of like almost amateurism. I was like, this is bad. Like it just I can't get behind this film. Like if it looked better, I think I would have been maybe. More into it. And I think that kind of ruined the experience a little bit.
So we've talked about Ryan Gosling's lack of acting abilities. He's gonna punch us in the face so hard. But
I'm a fan of Ryan Gosling.
Claire Foy, I heard, is also really good in this film because she plays that Right. Whereas like Neil Armstrong's character is very like stoic, as you were saying. She plays a much more, expressive person. So. Yeah. How was she? Because I loved her in The Queen. So how is she in this?
She was great.
Yeah, she's
and
really
great. The Crown. Sorry.
Yeah, she was great, and I really enjoyed the character, and I really enjoyed. I just really enjoyed how Neil Armstrong's wife just forced him to take responsibility for everything he was doing, and I thought
she was the glue that held the family together.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty much.
Should the story have focused more on her? Would that have made a better movie?
It focused on her enough. I feel like. I don't feel like she was hidden at any point. Like they show her quite a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, she definitely helped carry the film more for me. I think that's probably why it didn't feel long to me. I think she was such a good actress that I was like, I'm kind of in it with her more than I am with her.
In the trailer, I felt like it was a little deceiving. Like in the trailers, it seems like she's like creating more havoc. That's what it felt like to me. I don't know if
she calls them boys and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like. You get to see the build up to that, and it makes a whole lot more sense, like in context in the film.
Yeah.
So basically, what I'm saying is that the trailer didn't do justice for her character. I think her character is very multi-dimensional and well developed.
What about the supporting cast in this? We have I'm seeing Pablo Schreiber, he's doing such amazing work. You have Christopher Abbott, a whole bunch of actors. How are the rest of the cast in this?
Good. They're utilized well.
Yeah.
I mean, they play historical people in the. I thought they did a good job.
Yeah, I never felt like anyone was.
Buzz Aldrin. You guys said Buzz Aldrin was an asshole in this, or what?
He was good at. Like, this good.
He was like
Stoll. I forgot the actor's name.
He like when someone died, like he'd be like, well, they should have, like he'd like, oh well, now you're next, or I'm next, or maybe I'll be the one that goes up, or whatever.
He was a very
He was like Sheldon almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
he was like a realist. Like he was like, we're in this extremely dangerous field where a lot of the people who do this die.
Yeah. He was. Yeah.
And he's like, well, they died. Okay.
Yeah. He was like, well, he was like, well, of course he died because his personality was like this, and these are the mistakes he probably made, and
exactly.
And then everyone's like.
Shut up!
We're at a funeral, man.
Oh shoot! Okay,
Yes.
I like Buzz Aldrin as a person, so that
I liked the character as well.
He once punched a flat earther in the face.
Really?
Yeah, because they came up and they accused him of staging the whole thing, and he was like 70 years old at the time, and he just knocked the guy out. There's video of it, so check it out.
That sounds about right for this character. Yeah, well casted.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so that's pretty much all I've got as far as questions, except for one last one, which is how does this compare to Apollo 13? Because I love Apollo 13 as a film.
Don't hate me. I haven't seen Apollo 13.
Mike,
should I leave? Okay.
Come on!
You can't compare them really.
I honestly,
is that because you haven't watched it either?
No.
Of
course I've seen Apollo 13.
I'm not buying it at all.
You're the only one who's seen this.
Oh man!
First Man is not to do.
I'm going. I'm leaving. That's it. I'm done.
You all
don't get points for that.
Man.
You're gonna be like Buzz Aldrin and punch us all.
No, Apollo 13 is about the space mission. First Man doesn't. The movie's not about the space mission.
I am aware of that. Neither is Apollo 13, guys.
Now this is
the whole space mission.
This is like
mortality.
Neil Armstrong biopic. This isn't about. This isn't like the moon is like a small part of it.
It's an event.
It's an event that happens, but it isn't, or at least for me, it didn't feel like it was the main part of this film.
Okay,
so it was all
the movie starts like 9 years before. 9 years? Yeah, 1963. Yeah. And the launch is 1969.
Yeah, there's
a huge process.
So 9 years before.
I just wish we could ring the shame bell for all of you right now.
Shame on you.
All right.
Have you not seen Apollo 13?
I think I did and didn't care.
Oh, you should really watch it again. It's such an amazing story.
I don't remember. I'll need to watch it. I'll need to watch it again.
All right. Any last thoughts?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying what I've said. I mean, it's worth seeing I don't think it's worth seeing in the theaters.
Okay.
Basically because of the fact that it's not cinematic enough.
Now, do you think if you would have saw it at like the
3D?
arc lights, the dome, or like somewhere where the film
No.
could be seen?
Oh no! I
So
think
like
I think this is like
Dolby
this is like mistakes made by the people filming it.
Okay.
I think it was just out of focus. Like I literally
okay.
think they messed up when filming.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't think it's cinematic enough. I again, Ryan Gosling, my subjective views of him or whatever. I don't think carries it enough. But I do think that it is worth seeing at some point. But I'd say just wait till it's out of the theater. Don't spend the money. Wait and then check it out later.
Got it. Okay.
That's interesting.
Mike?
I guess if you hate Ryan Gosling's acting, or
hate film? No, just kidding.
I like Drive. The last thing probably.
I agree
liked
with
him.
Alex. Like, there could have been moments where it could have been more cinematic, for sure. The documentary feel does affect this negatively visually, but I feel like, for me, I felt like Ryan Gosling, I enjoyed his acting in this, and I felt like he carried it all the way through. And I enjoyed this slow burn film, and I felt like it was the ending was very fulfilling to its long build up.
Okay.
Definitely agree with that. The ending was very well fulfilled. Also, I enjoyed the realistic they did when making the film, whereas it made you seem like you were like another astronaut there, or like a scientist watching these events unfold in front of you. I also thought Ryan Gosling was great, and I thought he carried the film really well. And I just liked the whole fact, the motivation behind it was very emotional, and like Mike said, there was a payoff at the end that I really enjoyed.
This is a strange verdict because I too don't like Ryan Gosling a whole lot, and Damien Chazelle, I'm not a big fan. I've never been really sold on his abilities, except for Whiplash. That was that was 2 out of 3,
Yeah.
or 1 out of 3, and that I've liked. So I'm
gonna see the third one.
Listen, here's the thing: I'm gonna have to watch the movie anyways. But if it was my honest opinion, I would say this is a takeout. I'm really not rushing out to watch it, and I'm just going to give you the point, Alex. So that's 2 points, none for you two. You weren't going to get any anyways, so it doesn't even matter at this point. So the point being, yeah, I'm honestly, like, somebody tell me why Ryan Gosling is a good actor. I have not figured it out.
That's what I'm saying.
He's been great since Blue Valentine. Like,
that was the last probably.
No, I liked him in
film,
Blade Runner for 2040. I liked him in La La Land.
He knows how to play quiet,
really good.
and that's about it.
He's used as a guy who doesn't show emotion.
That's exactly it, because he probably has none.
Like he worked as a Nicholas Winding Refn character.
Yeah.
And he was great in those films because they show no emotion.
Yeah, so that's my verdict. I toss the hosting duties back to Dan, who probably will reverse them right now. Go ahead, Dan.
All right, so now I'm a host. Alex, you get no points.
Okay. For all my negative comments about Ryan Gosling.
Thank you, Alex, for being on the show. Anything you'd like to plug?
Sure. Oh, sorry, what were you going to say?
No.
Is there something that you know that I don't?
Always.
Oh, shit. I have another Instagram that I started with Moses that I've mentioned a few times in this podcast. It's called it's a new little company that we're starting to try to do like more music video content and more narrative stuff. And it's I think you maybe are following it, Mike. Maybe not. It's Outer Heaven Creations.
Okay.
If you are a Metal Gear Solid fan, Outer Heaven is from Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, nice.
But that's the reference. But it's just Outer Heaven Creations.
Got it. Cool.
Check it out.
Yeah, I'll be checking it out.
Thanks.
Awesome. Definitely, I will be checking it out.
Outer Heaven Creations, all one word?
Yeah, I believe so.
At Outer Heaven Creations.
Yeah,
okay.
That sounds about right.
Cool.
Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Z, for hosting.
You're
Thank
welcome.
For being on the show.
Alex.
Even though you didn't give us points, you SOB. On that note, we'll be back. Make sure to visit our website, moviemenupodcast.com. Follow us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And on YouTube, next week we'll have a new episode of Movie Menu Podcast. Until next time.
See you
Goodbye.
later.
1, 2, 3, 4.